Shalom, and a heartfelt welcome to all of you tonight. We are particularly grateful to you, given the terrible weather out and the times in which we're living. So we thank you very much. As a dedicated leader of PJ Library here in New York, and a co-chair with Dale Nussbaum, as I said, and also Gloria. Gloria's here as well. And Gloria is the head of our Westchester group. So thank you to Gloria for being here, coming all the way in with her husband, Mark Levenfuss. We all extend our warm greetings to you, particularly, as I've already said, during these difficult times. Today we come together for an important panel discussion about childhood in times of crisis, supporting children in Israel and here in the United States, since what's happened on October 7th. We recognize the pivotal role that grandparents play in shaping and supporting our children amidst the challenges of war in Israel and in anti-Semitism around the world. We will discuss how to address that and also at the same time to foster Jewish identity among these young children during these trying times. Now, it seems to me that there are very few of you who are grandparents, but nonetheless, we will be talking about that, and many of the things that we talk about really apply to parents as well. So I hope it will be relevant for you, and I hope we'll be able to share some important thoughts with you. In acknowledging the significance of our influence on our grandchildren, it is important to reflect on how we can impart the richness of our culture and the history to the young minds that we are nurturing. Through the books and resources available from PJ Library, we are able to transmit history, values, traditions, and lessons that have a profound impact on the mind of young people, and to help them ensure our own legacy, which is so important in so many ways. Through opportunities such as the Grandparents Engagement Committee of PJ Library, we facilitate dialogue, offer support, and unite in a collective action to ensure that the flame of Jewish identity burns brightly within the hearts of our children and grandchildren. We look forward to sharing with you the ways to nurture Jewish identity, to foster positive connection to Israel, and to address threats to our people within our own country. Again, we welcome you and we thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you.
So we're on time, which is good. In fact, we're even a little bit earlier because I think that it's important, and I'm happy that we have a couple of extra moments off of our very tightly, scheduled hour together, so that we can hear a little bit of the personal and also the projects and everything that the challenges and the opportunities that are now for the entire KGI and everything that's happening here as well. I want to begin by just framing. I didn't frame earlier. I wanted to introduce the panel, but as a rabbi here at the Y, it's really important to frame this conversation also Jewishly at this time of the year, because this time of the year is uniquely children's time of the year. Seder, the ritualized meal that is the Passover story, is a storytelling time. The Haggadah is maybe the first PJ Library book, right? The Haggadah is from the Torah in the book of Shemot in Exodus, chapter 13, verse 8. It says, "V'igata lebincha bayom hahu lemor, v'avur zeh asa Adonai li b'tzeiti mitzrayim." V'igata lebincha, you will tell your child on that day a story that was a traumatic story, a story of slavery and degradation and indignity. And you'll tell the story, though, in a way that will move from gnut l'shevach, from the pits of despair to the heights of hope. And it's a model of storytelling. So it's kind of within that framing of that time of the year now, we're talking about telling stories and how we transmit our values and tell difficult stories to our children. I just wanted to back up a little bit and ask you, Andrea, just to begin, just talking to you for a couple of minutes, and I was completely taken by your story, a little bit of your personal story. And I think that I would want to start with, if you could share with all of us a little bit of your personal story, what brought you to Grinspoon, and then kind of want to let you talk about this amazing project. And I have a couple of questions. One is, my thought would have been that maybe Israel's a place where they don't need to send Jewish books. Like,
Right.
of all the places, to send Jewish books, maybe Israel's not the place. And secondly, obviously there's a global PJ library, but in Israel specifically, that's a question. And then also more accurate, more proximate now, more kilo right here at this moment. How is the work of PJ Library, KGI, before October 7th, before 10/7? What was it like? And now how have things radically shifted? And just bring us into your world a little bit, because we're fascinated.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here tonight. Everybody hear me okay? Well, I hope you can hear already from the first sentence or so that I'm originally from here in New York, Washington Heights, not too far from here. And I, Fairlawn, New Jersey, 5 years in Boston where I went to university, and it was right after university that I made Aliyah. And you had asked me, so what brought me to Aliyah? And it's not the traditional story. My dream was to do archaeology. And what brought me to Israel is I wanted to do archaeology, and I said, well, I'm a nice Jewish girl, I'll do archaeology in Israel. You could do it, right? You could dig for dinosaur bones in France and come up with an entire skeleton, apparently. And that's when I discovered Israel. Israel was always part of the conversation of my home. My parents were immigrants. My father came to the United States from Germany, very typical stories of Washington Heights. And I've been living in Israel since 1986, so a year or so. Before coming to Harold Grinspoon, it didn't just happen. I had spent, as you noted, the past 15 years of my stint at the Jewish Agency for Israel. I believe some of you are familiar with the work of the Jewish Agency. I really dedicated my time for heading up a unit that was dedicated to strengthening relationships between Jewish communities around the world with Israelis in communities through Jewish Sister City Relationships, Global School Twinning Network, and several other projects. And it was a dream job. It was a passion. But I wanted to leave while I was still happy. 18 years in one organization, no matter how much you love it, you want to leave while you are on high up and you are happy, and while you still have time for another meaningful professional chapter. So I announced I was leaving in December 2019. I was going to leave in June. Corona hit. In the middle of it all, I get an email from the Harold Grinspoon Foundation that they're looking for a new executive director. And I said to myself, well, I wanted a whole new world, early child development, Jewish stories, et cetera. And to make a long story short, 3 years later, here I am. And you asked, so is it really logical almost? Why is the Karen Grinspoon Foundation, why is the Harold Grinspoon Foundation investing literally millions of dollars every year, along with the Ministry of Education, to bring books of Jewish and Israeli culture to Israeli children, to Israeli families? And the answer is that even if you are in Israel, that yes, to have books that bring the joy of culture to the classroom and to the home, and to be able to engage with that content. In Israel, though, I will say that Sifriya Pajama, it's PJ with, I would say, with an Israeli twist. It's an Israeli twist in terms of contents and an Israeli twist in terms of operations. In terms of operations, I'll just say the books get delivered to the classroom. And the teacher's role is to engage with the book, not only read the book, but to engage with the book for a week or two, and then everybody gets a very sweet blue bag, probably the best marketing piece that we have. You can see it a mile away. And they bring it home for that educational continuum. But our books are not designed to teach the Aleph Bet, the ABCs of Hebrew. They're not. They're designed to have engagement and joy and fun and bring the culture of reading. And our books are just the beginning. We have 3 pillars of our work in Sifriya Pajama and Maktabat al-Fanus, which is our program in Arabic. Yes, it's a hard word to say. You can just say Fanus. That's our program in Arabic. And while they're different books, different content, each designed to meet the culture of the different populations, but they work the same. The books are, as I say, we have 3 pillars. The books, around every book, there is an array of on and offline support materials, engagement materials. If you know PJ Books, they have the flaps, those very famous flaps. Right? They're even very, very, very pretty. Yeah. So our version of the last 2 pages where we have conversation starters, what does the book mean, games. Every book has a recording so you can listen to the book when you're in your car, et cetera, et cetera. And the 3rd pillar of our book, which is completely different from what happens here, we do professional training for educators, for teachers, for preschool teachers. Sifriyat Pajama begins with age 1 in daycare. That is not with the Ministry of Education. Age 1 to 3 in Monot in daycare. And then 3 years of public preschool and 2 years grades 1 and 2. And Fanus begins in preschool and grades 1 and 2. We deliver books to approximately 526,000 children a year. That is 3.7 million books. Those are big numbers. That's a lot. We're like a mini Amazon in terms of moving books.
And 2 people in the back office doing it, just 2 people.
And we deliver it by box to each classroom, not even to each school.
Unbelievable. To
each classroom. It's over 14,000 educational institutions, about 22,000 classrooms. And it starts over every year. We have book committees that choose the books. We have a committee that develops our content once the books are chosen, all done in collaboration and superb partnership with the Ministry of Education. October 7th changed our lives. What was supposed to happen October 8th? October 8th, children were supposed to go back to school after all the holidays, right? School starts September 1 and everyone, it's like you're in school, you're out of school, you're in school, out of school. Everyone's back to school. And because of the Jewish holidays every year, our book distribution always starts the day after Simchat Torah.
Wow.
And we had hundreds of thousands of books packaged, ready to go out on September 8th, October 8th. I get up October 8th, and also what I was not supposed to do, I picked up my son in Tel Aviv, and I drove him down south, where he served in and out of Gaza for over 3.5 months. And on my, that's right. And he's fine. He's safe and sound at home. On my way back home after dropping him off, and rockets are flying, my staff is at home, they all have young children, or almost all of them have young, either super young or school-age children. And what do you do? I mean, really, what do you do? We're certainly not delivering books. And it's paralyzing, to be perfectly frank. I convene a couple of members of the team when I get home, and we discuss what should we do. And we decided to put out a Facebook post. And we debated over every word and whether or not we should do it. Does anybody care? What are they going to think about us? We're going to put out a post. And the post basically said, because everyone was at home, you're welcome to use our materials. V'anachnu itchem babayit. We are with you at home. And we put up a little red heart. And the response was unbelievable. I mean, nobody knew yet the extent of the massacre of Nova. Nobody knew yet the extent of the massacres in the kibbutzim and moshavim. Okay, this is the morning of October 8th. Nobody knew yet.
Wow.
War was declared. Right. It felt different. But nobody yet knew of what was waiting in those kibbutzim. Nobody. And I mean, they were starting to find out. So you're thinking to yourself, so many people in bomb shelters are liking and sharing our post? So after another day, we decided that I talked about all the support materials of our book, what I call the party around every book. We said we need to make our materials more accessible. How are they normally? They're usually very accessible. But you go onto our website, you click on a book, a whole world opens, and our materials are there. But we're saying, wait a second. People are at home and they need to, that they have our books, they don't have our books. There's so many things you can do, even if you do not have our books. And the team, who again, everyone is at home, and we worked round the clock, and on Wednesday night, we uploaded all of our materials according to category on our website. Recordings, games, conversation starters, videos, et cetera, et cetera.
So the whole operation up?
Whole operation up in Hebrew Wednesday evening, and the whole operation up Friday afternoon in Arabic.
Wow.
That's not the wow. That is a wow. My team, I do this to my team every day. On Sunday, our website crashed.
Perfect.
And I want to remind you, Israel is paralyzed. Not paralyzed. Israel is still in shock. The horror of what happened is known. People are in bomb shelters, or in and out of bomb shelters. And so many people were accessing our materials that our website crashed.
Wow.
And what did we understand from that? What did I understand from that? That not only, we know that we have a national brand, okay? Year after year, we're distributing a lot of books to over 500,000 children and families. But it's a trusted brand. We were providing respite. It was a go-to place that parents were saying, here, let's do this game. Let's listen to this book. And it was said, we are doing, if we can provide 10 minutes, half an hour every day of some respite almost, some good, some happiness to children who are at home, you know what? This is amazing. And the second week of the war, I decided we understood this was, I didn't think it was going to be 6 months. But we knew this was not going to be 2 weeks either, 3 weeks. And I said, you know what, I want to talk to my colleagues in the Ministry of Education. And I want to know what else can we or should we be doing that can help. And I didn't even know if they were going to respond. They are, don't forget, week 2, there were 400 evacuee centers, and the Ministry of Education had to establish a presence in each one. You can't have scores of children, hundreds of children in each, a lot of these kibbutzim are very young communities, Sderot, talk about a city, and you can't just have them doing nothing. And they had to create a preschool in every single evacuee center. They had to create gan, daycare, preschool, and give a response to grades 1 and 2. They had to establish a school down by the Dead Sea. Do you know what it is to establish a school?
Yeah.
Eilat. So they got back to me. And they said, yes, let's have a Zoom. Okay. I had a Zoom, 2 Zooms. With preschool leadership. This is the national leadership. This is the person responsible for all preschool in Israel. They made time for us, as well as elementary school. And we put together a plan. It's like Blink. Anybody read the book Blink? Just Blink. Okay, what are we going to do? And we decided that I'm not going to go through the whole list of what we did those first 2 months, but we, for example, sent activity kits. The first one was 9 books. Each book came with, for the educator, a whole slew of activities and ideas, conversation, and each book came with like an arts and crafts kind of activity for a classroom. We had to make a decision. How many kids? So we did it with a classroom. The Ministry of Education said, the best thing that Sifriyat Pajama has that we think that can help kids at home and parents, can you do more recordings of your books? Okay, we're going to do 20 more recordings. We have to get the copyrights. We have to do this. We have to do that. For Fanus, our program in Arabic, what's super, super popular in regular times, our story hour. And we took a child psychologist to work with our team to help us not only to choose the book, but what is the kind of activity and conversation that we want to have with that book. And not to say, wow, there's war. You're afraid, right? Let's talk about it. No. It's little kids. So it was, for example, let's talk about what we like to do before we go to sleep. Because kids in regular times, you know, my daughter's sitting here, never wanted to go to sleep. And when kids are anxious, they really don't want to go to sleep. Yeah. So it's about what do we like to do, what makes us happy, what do we like to do before we go to sleep, and other things. And there's a whole bunch of other things we did those 2 first months. And the reason that we were able to pivot is because we had these materials, right, and we knew how to do these things. Right. We didn't have to create anything for the kids. We had the books, we adjusted, we were looking for triggers, right? We actually adjusted some of the wording just because we were looking for triggers. Huh. But we had it, and we just did it. And we had it out, and we had it in the evacuee centers, and we did lectures for parents because we have this expertise and a whole bunch of things. So we were able to, like in COVID, those companies that were able to pivot, it's the same thing here. Who's able to pivot and provide a relevant response?
So can I interrupt you for just 1 second and come back?
Absolutely.
So just like I want to get a sense of, you just gave us so much, and I just want to first of all, thank you. I mean, thank you. Maybe just thank you for your leadership and just knowing that the crisis is so overwhelming and you could become so frozen, but you acted and the whole organization pivoted in order to serve families and children. Correct. It's a remarkable, incredible feat. Just wanted so essentially before October 7th, the function of PJ Library was to bring 500,000 or close to 500,000 families and children culture and books and curricula and support to enrich their education. It was a supplemental program, and it helped to fill in gaps or even shape children in ways that maybe school would not, but it was in conjunction with the schools. Absolutely. Not being sent to homes the way it's here. I get the books all the time, but it being sent to the classroom, so the classroom becomes a part of the curriculum, part of the educational pedagogy and so on.
Right.
And then in the aftermath of October 7th, with the collapse in major centers of Israel, of the educational system, and then needing to pivot quickly and create educational centers for displaced families, thousands of children in homes. Right. PJ Library, KGI, kicked in to take pre-existing material, to shape it, to read it again for triggers, to think about the mental health of children and families in a way that could support them in this interstitial time, in this in-between limbo that they were in, to give them shigra, to give them a regular sense of daily life, go back to things a little bit before October 7th.
I just have to say, that's what they said to us, because it's so loved. It's like it gives them a sense of normalcy.
It's like,
right. Oh, Sifriat pajama, this is normalcy. By the way, there were also evacuees in the Arab community, and we provided also resources to them as well. I just want to point that out.
And that's actually another thing I was going to point out, and then I'll let you, please, for anyone who hears the conversations happening both here and in other places around the world, to know that Harold Grinspoon and the KGI Foundation was not only interested in 500,000 Jewish families and getting them Hebrew books or whatever it might be, but also with Fanus, it's just an amazing moment to think about the shaping of Arab-speaking Israeli Arab citizens and so on. It's just remarkable as well.
I just want to say, people have asked me, why does Harold Grinspoon Foundation, which is dedicated to strengthening the Jewish people, how come they invest in Maktabat al-Fanus? How come they invest in? It's because as part of the Jewish people, Harold Grinspoon Foundation is dedicated to the state of Israel. And if we want to have a dedicated state of Israel, Harold Grinspoon Foundation is dedicated to advancing, supporting all the children of Israel. So it's absolutely natural, intuitive to us why we also service no less the Arab children and families in Israel, before the war and during the war.
So I interrupted you. Maybe you remember the thread you were on, or no?
I actually do.
Okay, good.
So we, after about 2 months, we went back to the Ministry of Education. And we said, we need to think about this more strategically, because the needs and the challenges of children, families, educators, okay? You talked about, wow, we were able to function. Well, educators need to function. This is going to be a long-term, we need to put together a long-term response. And we did a real in-depth series of strategic thinking. And the outcome is a response that we're putting together for the next year and a half, meaning this academic year and next academic year. And it goes from being able to have a child psychologist, educational consultants working with our teams all the time, to be able to, because our teams, they're educators, but they're not psychologists. There's a difference. There's a difference. They don't have the same sensitivities. It's not for the choosing of the books. We're still choosing books based on our original parameters. There are triggers that we will be aware of. It's the support materials and the professional training and what we do with families that we're adding additional layers of intervention. It's not even intervention. Additional support. Layers of materials. And they're based on two new things for us. One is learning gaps. These are COVID kids who got a big smack in the butt during COVID, and it impacted their learning. And just when they're perhaps getting back on their feet, COVID was basically yesterday. Now they get smacked with this, and again they're back at home and on Zoom and not on Zoom. COVID was a picnic compared to this. COVID was a picnic compared to this. So one is learning gaps. So we're not going to be teaching the ABCs, but there will be a whole layer of, for example, vocabulary building. We're just starting now on the content development, so I don't have a million examples to give you, but you can imagine the kind of things through play designed for vocabulary building and other things, language acquisition, helping you read, things like that. And the second, and I'm translating from Hebrew, is called soft resiliency. And soft resiliency means is that we're not going to say there's war, let's talk about it, I know you're scared, daddy was away for 3.5 months and you're still traumatized, and mommy was crying and you never saw mommy cry before. It's not that, but it is to create opportunity for the adults through our books to delve into the social and emotional world of the child and enable them to express themselves. There are some children that are naturally share. But even children who naturally share, this is new. And children don't always know how to articulate what they're feeling. So through our books, we are going to provide opportunity to delve into the social, emotional world of the child, whether it's through Story Hour. And it's not as though suddenly what we're doing is going to look so dramatically different. On face value, it's going to look the same. You're still going to have, instead of the flaps, those last 2 pages.
Right, the same deliverable.
The same deliverable, but it is going to be different. And the way that I told you, our third pillar that is unique to the Karen Grinspoon is that we do professional training. And the psychologists, et cetera, we're going to be building into our professional training specifically that much more, and how to use our books, again, for those 2 new lenses, those 2 new layers. I can tell you, in my pocketbook, Sivan, if you want to give me a book that I forgot to take out, this year we chose the books.
Was this like a clandestine way to bring your daughter in
Thank you.
PJ Library?
Oh, did I say? This is Sivan. Sivan, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. There's another one. I'll get it.
Came all the way?
I did come all the way.
So beautiful. I'm going to learn from you also, Andrea. I'm going to have my kids also.
Thanks.
The next time I'm on a panel, have my kids bringing something out. I love it.
So the books were chosen for this year, last year. Okay? Again, we choose the books a year in advance, so that, because you have to do all the content development, some of the books are original literature, you have to literally illustrate them, it takes a long time. So war starts, and we're like, wow, what books do we have? And we started looking them through the eyes of the war and the eyes of the trauma. So we have a book called Lama Telo Porech, Why, How Come You're Not Blooming? And anybody that can see anything It looks like a tunnel. Practically on every page, it looks like a tunnel. So we had, and I'm not kidding, practically every page. And forget about the money that we already printed 200,000 copies of these things. Forget about that. Do we distribute it? Don't we distribute it?
Is it too triggering?
And we had a whole conversation with the Ministry of Education, and they decided yes to distribute it. This book is called Masachet Shel Nevo, the Mask of Nevo. It's a Purim book. It wasn't printed yet. And what happens in Purim? Kids dress up to be a policeman, and there's guns, there's play, everything, right? Purim. So we went and had to, in certain pages, we went back and re-illustrated. There was an axe. It was a play axe, and any other time you would never, ever, ever think twice about it.
Wow.
So we actually took some of the play Purim stuff
and removed it.
And we were able to re-illustrate.
Wow.
We changed the name of a book. There were some things that we changed that we could, and others, like this book, it was printed. There's nothing you could do, but we would have. So it's complex. It's gratifying, because it is gratifying. I'll tell you two things.
And necessary.
Necessary, meeting a need. I'll finish with three things. I always say people can get confused by what we do because everything we have is cute.
Yes.
Children's books,
right.
Everything, my website, our swag, everything is really, really cute. Even when you think of the games that we're offering, even if they're educational and didactic, and wow, it really does help the kids advance, et cetera, and going into the social, it feels cute. And I always say, and I said this before the war, but it's echrachi. It is
necessary.
It is absolutely necessary, our work. It is not a nice to have. And during the war, and we're still at war, you put an exclamation point on that and you underline it 1,000 times because no matter how cute we look, this is not cute. Looks cute, but it's not cute.
It's another kind of front line. Number two.
That is right. Number two, if you ask, how did I do it? This stuff costs a lot of money. Harold Grinspoon is amazing. And it was the first week. He is amazing.
He is.
And it was the first week, and I, again, not realizing where this was headed, and I asked for like $75,000, something like that. And he came back to me and he said, Andrea, we're giving you $700. He called me up personally because he's got instincts like no other person I know. He clearly, well, maybe I was just protecting myself, not wanting to tell myself that this was going to go on for as long as it's going on. But you do what you need to do. This is important, which is amazing. And that enabled us to fly. This enabled us to pivot in real time. Even if we had the materials, even if we had everything that we needed, if you don't have the resources to buy the arts and crafts for the kits for 400 cents, it's a lot. It adds up, et cetera, et cetera. So for that, I say thank you. I say before, but amazing, amazing, amazing. And I don't remember the third thing, so I will finish with that.
Well, we'll come back. We'll come back. And Sivan's going to remember the third thing. Okay. So, Meara, you've been sitting here, and obviously,
how can you go after that?
No, of course. Well, it's so vital because, like, there are multiple centers where we're on the front lines. Like the work here in New York and in the metropolitan areas is vital as well. Children are trying to make sense of the world, and Jewish children in particular here have a different challenge with rising anti-Semitism here. It's a friend of mine, my friend Yossi Klein-Alevi, said to me 2 weeks ago on a podcast, he said, in Israel it's a little bit physically more dangerous, but more emotionally safe in certain ways. Like there's more contiguity, there's a sense of the narrative. And here it's very complicated, very, so many things in terms of Jewish identity, in terms of, connection with Israel and so on. So I just wonder if you could describe your reality here in New York since October 7th, a little bit before maybe, and also to share some of your challenges, some of the things that you've been pivoting to address yourself?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So pre-October 7th, I'm the New York director for PJ Library, and I have this great honor to lead this community of 37,000 children. So every month, 37,000 New York kids are getting PJ Library books. And so anyway, we're making a difference. Anyway, every month, 37,000 kids have Jewish moments in their home. They come into their home, they get the book, they open it up, and they have these moments over and over in their home. My sister says, oh my God, I've read this Shabbat book every day for like months on end. So it's multiple times. And we know that we're creating community, and we know that we're helping parents, and we know that we're, guiding them towards living a Jewish life. We know all this. We've got parent connectors. We've got a full team of people working around the clock to do this. And then October 7th happened. And all of a sudden, we had an event scheduled for October 9th in Westchester, New York. We were doing a big PJ Library Westchester Day. And we sat with our team and we said, should we cancel? Do we do this? Do we not? It's awkward. Like, what do we do? The news is still rolling out. And we said, yeah, like, let's do this. People need this. More than 100 people showed up we had 7 locations, and people came, the kids did their activities, and we held the parents. The parents wanted to be together. They needed somebody I found myself walking around the room, like hugging and crying with different parents in this like shared experience that we were having. And you realize this PJ Library community that we're holding, our books are cute, like you said, but it's so much more. We're holding the parents, we're holding the children, we're holding the grandparents as everyone is navigating this time. And so we saw, and everyone afterwards was like, thank you so much for hosting this event, and thank you for DEFCA not canceling and giving us a space to connect and be with one another. And so we saw very quickly, within days, people wanted to be together. We have 25 parent connectors working here in the New York area who work to create community. And they all said that they're having more people show up to their events now more than ever. That we're providing a place where people feel comfortable and they know that they're going to be welcomed and they don't have to answer questions. They can just be. And that is just a very powerful thing. There was a recent study that came out that 70% of parents look towards us to be a resource. And we realized this is a very heavy thing to hold. Like, how are we going to guide these parents, and what are we going to do? And we're doing it on a community-based level, creating connections, introducing them to institutions, sharing the books, using our resources. And then we're doing it on a national level through our webinars, through all of our resources on the website to really help and guide on multiple fronts. But we can obviously see that post-October 7th, everybody took steps in. The leaders and the people who were volunteering wanted to lean in more. The people stepped up and took leadership roles. We're filling roles next year for parent connectors. We've never filled it so quickly. I mean, people are just coming and flocking to us in ways, and they need it, and we need it, and together we can create it together. And it's amazing to be able to offer this space.
Thank you. So thank you for that. And so just a question to you, maybe also to Andrea, like, how does PJ Library, or how does the soft resilience, beautiful term, soft resilience, kind of oblique, like not going at a traumatic event or something overwhelming, head on the way an adult might process an event, children can't process that. In fact, it's unhealthy to some extent to ask their brains to be able to articulate something that's very, very hard to make sense of. But how does PJ Library or work with anti-Semitism, or like questions from children to say, like, why do people hate us, or why, why? I mean, I'm not familiar with the entire library, but are there books within the PJ Library, books like Ismail, and there was a book about the soccer game between, I think the New York Times had a whole story at the beginning of the war. The New York Times ran a story about children's books and the impact they have on telling the story. And there was a famous book about a Jewish kid and a Palestinian who play soccer. Do you know this book? It's like, anyway. So, are there books about the conflict? In a soft way or in a bleak way? And maybe not, which you can teach us. Maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. I just don't know. I'm just asking.
I'll start. From my knowledge, I don't think that there is any specific book about the conflict, but all the books show, one of my favorite books is about Pesach, and a little girl living in, I think it's Morocco, and her Arab neighbor, and all about the mimuna and sharing, and it's about relationships. And I think all of our books touch on human and relationships and identity. And so there's something specific about the conflict, but there's the personal pieces that we want.
So
that you can be different.
Right,
and
that we can be friends.
And you can still be friends.
And you can be Jewish, but you can, obviously, we've always,
Yes.
right,
neighbors. And my favorite book is it's about a little Jewish girl and a little Arab girl who are playing, and they're friends, and their neighbors, and their moms share flour for Pesach and the Mimuna. And it's all about, the whole story is about teaching that you can be friends with people who are different than you and lean on each other.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So the same here. We don't have any book about the conflict. Again, these are very young children.
Yeah.
No, they're also very, very young. But the same. We have a lot of our books. I didn't say this before. Some of our books are based on universal values, but that have a direct line that are also evidently Jewish values, are based in Torah, Sipurei Tanakh, and stories from the sources, but nothing on the conflict, no.
Right. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe, who knows? Yeah. So I want to just turn to you, Dr. Shorenstein.
You can call me Janice.
Okay, Janice. Thank you. Thanks for the permission. I appreciate that.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Well, I can just say that, I'm not 2 through 8 any longer. But I can remember as vividly as yesterday, my grandfather walking in Jerusalem. I had my bar mitzvah in Yerushalayim, 1982. And I remember my grandfather's role in my bar mitzvah. I remember my grandfather and my grandmother, actually, and how much of an impact they had on our whole family. The way I remember them at the Sidarim, at the Passover Seders. I remember them and their stories. I remember going to visit them on Sundays. And although I didn't have story time with them, I see, though, my own children now and their grandparents and my father, my mother, and my wife's parents, and how important that relationship is. There's a proverb that says, "Chut ha'mishulash lo b'mehera yinatek," that a threefold cord is not easily broken. My own teacher used to say that grandparents are unique. They have an edible ally with the children.
That's right.
Right? Children can skip over and say, Saba, Savta, Grandma, whatever, Nana, Papa. So can you talk to the role of, as a layperson who's very involved, obviously, with grandparents, and how important that is with PJ Library and the success of telling stories and shaping children?
I'd love to talk about it, and thank you for the
Of course.
opportunity. What I'd like to share is a little bit different than what you've heard up till now this evening. Research has really shown that grandparents have a profound impact on the development, on the minds of young children, more so than their parents and more so than their teachers. Because grandparents create a very safe space. Grandchildren come to their grandparents' home. They feel that they can do things that they would otherwise not be able to do, and consequently, they can talk about things that they otherwise might not talk about with other people. And that gives grandparents a really great advantage in terms of sharing traditions, sharing values, sharing stories, and really being able to provide a basis, a foundation upon which children can grow. So I have used PJ Library books in many different ways. I've read to our grandchildren, who are now 9 and 11, from the time they were 2 on. And some of the PJ Library books are funny, some are silly, but some are very profound and very serious. And throughout all of them, regardless of the story, they are always creating a moral at the end of the books that are about the values that one should behave by. So Tikkun Olam is clearly a theme that runs through PJ Library books. And my grandchildren are American, very American, although my grandson has been to Israel twice and my granddaughter once. But they're very conscious of being Jewish and very conscious of being part of a society that is very close to and concerned about Israel. And so our grandchildren come to our home every Friday night for Shabbat, and sleep over every Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we go through a routine of eating what they want to eat and so forth and so on. My story is that for years I've been reading PJ Library books to them, and we cuddle together and we read them together, and they start to read to me. But recently, after the war broke out, my husband and I decided that we wanted to go to Israel to volunteer. And that we wanted to go not with a tour, not with a mission, not with a group, but by ourselves. And we know the people in Israel who were the creators of Brothers and Sisters in Arms, which pivoted to Brothers and Sisters and has become the largest volunteer organization in Israel with 18,000 people. And we went to Israel with the intention of really doing tikkun olam, doing what we could to help the world. And there are several things that were important to us. We first packaged 500 boxes of product that went from the Israeli soldiers to their families, not the other way around. And we did this with Israeli citizens. We didn't do it with Americans. We did it with people on the ground. And we were able to talk to them, and we were able to share with them, and we were able to really experience the feeling of giving with people for whom giving to their peers and to their friends and to their family meant so much. And that was a very important experience for us. Then we went to an orphan village. The orphan village was really unique for us because these children they have nobody anymore. They have nobody that they can turn to. And yes, we were Americans who couldn't communicate very well to them. And yes, we were older people who couldn't play very well with them. But we were people who came and sat with them and ate lunch with them and hugged them and kissed them and asked them about what they were feeling. And we were able to relate to them, and they were able to express themselves in a way that they are absent for such a period of time because they were alone. And even in this warm and caring and comfortable orphanage that they were in, and they call it a children's village, not an orphanage, even in that kind of setting that was so supportive of them, having people come to them and say to them, "We are here for you," really meant something. The last thing we did, we went to lone soldiers. These are lone soldiers who don't have families anymore. They're double lone soldiers. And these people shared with us, their experiences, both as people who had been in the military as well as those who were just leaving or who had been there before. And again, the opportunity in their case to learn about what's happening in America. How do Americans feel about us? What is it that they're caring about? Who is it that they're talking about? That we could share that with them was another dimension of being able to comfort themselves because they knew that people around the world in the diaspora were caring for them. Now, grandparents really have something that they can offer. They're present. Very often parents are not able to be so present with their children because they're working, there are hundreds of things that they have to do, they're running, they're doing. So grandparents are present, and they can really embrace their grandchildren in a very neutral environment. Secondly, they can listen to their concerns and not necessarily be judgmental because they're not raising them. So that's another advantage that grandparents have. And they're often the source of comfort and hope. And very often during this time, they can really serve as an example. So when we came back from Israel, we told our grandchildren about volunteering. And the important part about it was that we could relate it to the lessons that they had learned through PJ Library. That was where the big connection occurred. Nice. So for years we had talked to them about what you do for others, how you do for others when they are in times of stress, what it is that is common among us, through little stories, through funny stories. And this was in a way to really make that connection so that they understood what we had done in Israel with what they had learned through the PJ Library books. And I must say that it really is, PJ Library books provide a foundation for you, a context for whether it's grandparents or parents, but particularly grandparents, I feel, because it's a whole dimension of giving and sharing and embracing and loving, that PJ Library lay a foundation for the issues that you want to share and the issues that then become something that are important for them in terms of their future development, and important in terms of the legacy that you want to leave yourself. And that is such a critical component of the whole process of really raising children, and particularly grandchildren. So I must say that PJ Library has been a resource. It's something that you can turn to. There are books, there are activities, there are podcasts.
Online podcasts.
Podcasts. All of those things are available as a way to really create an environment in which you really are able to raise children who understand the values because they've learned about it through PJ Library books.
It's amazing. I think that one of the things that my parents have also, like you, used PJ Library books with my children. And even though I grew up in an Orthodox home and they have facility with a lot of different texts, PJ Library curated already great morals, great stories. It was it was very simple for them to just walk in and use those materials and make fun happen, which was amazing. I thank you for that. And I also feel like we have a couple of minutes left for some, maybe some questions or anything from those of you who have been here. Thank you for listening. I'm sure, like me, you learned a lot about the situation going on in Israel and also challenges here in the New York area. If anybody has any questions now, we can have a couple of minutes for a conversation about something that might have come up that you need some clarification or something that interests you. And if not, I have more questions. I'm just giving you a chance. Sivan.
I'm really curious, what did the soldiers send to back home?
So for the people online that might not have heard that, Sivan is asking, what did the soldiers send back to their parents at home? So it's an interesting question.
They sent socks, they sent blankets. We didn't send perishables.
No, back to their parents though. The soldiers
The lone
made
soldiers.
the lone soldiers.
Oh, the lone
You said
soldiers.
the soldiers made packages. You packed
No,
to give
these were
back to
from
their
soldiers
parents.
from their bases. We
Yeah.
we did it from soldiers from their bases to go back to their families,
Okay.
because they knew that in some cases their families had been stripped of everything. And so the most important thing that you need are
Right.
blankets.
I would've-
They
that's
did
it.
underwear. They did socks.
Got it. Wow.
They did
Yeah,
things
that's
that were
okay.
essentials for their families.
Yeah. The volunteers. The
volunteers
not
did
the
it.
soldiers. That
Oh,
was
I'm
confusing.
sorry.
Sivan. So
I
at
apologize.
these
The
Hamal, at a place where they were volunteering, instead of packing baggage only to send from the Hamal, from the volunteer area, to the soldiers, they were also packing to send, of course, back to those whom you might not have intuitively thought needed it, which were the people who were displaced, who had lost all of their material possessions.
Yeah, I'm
Really
sorry.
amazing. No, it's okay. So, I also just want to say that, I think what we could lose from all of this, of course, is exactly what I think both Andrea and also Meara were saying about the superficial understanding of children's books and their impact on the mental health of children. And I think that's what brought us here tonight. Of course, we could talk about 500,000 books and millions of books around the world. It's not just America or Israel. PJ Library is serving the entire global Jewish community. But what's remarkable, of course, is that tonight's focus was how that also is instrumental in helping children process what everyone is trying to process now, which is something that can't be processed, which is a complete interruption in their lives, a complete displacement,
Loss.
a loss, like a sense children feel things in the air, they know something's amiss. So here we're trying to, it's not just education, it's I would say therapy, but that's also, it degrades it in a way. It's almost, it's a holding of our most precious resource, which is children, understanding that how we treat them now at this vital moment has an impact on the future adults that they will become and the society that they will build, right? And how short-sighted it is to only think of, it's a book, but it's an experience of safety. When you say PJ, when I think PJ, nothing for me elicits a heart opening than seeing a child in their PJs. Like seeing a child so trusting and so open, as you said, when their anxiety, they can't go to bed. So this is helping them to literally rest, as you said earlier, and to be able to be for a moment to shake off the burdens that they're holding, because children hold this intrapsychically. So I don't know. I just I don't know if there was a question in there as much as an appreciation for this work. I want to give you a last word because you had the third thing you were going to say, but I could just, if you have anything else you wanted to say, or Meara, I'll close with something, unless you also had something to say. I'm not sure, but we're kind of, anything you'd like to share with the group?
I'll share that I'm representing an amazing team of 25 people, Jewish and Arab in Israel, who found the wherewithal through this trying time to work, and I'll say work together. And that's not simple. It's not simple. Without going into all the reasons why it's not simple, you can imagine that it's not simple. And I remember in the beginning, somebody asked me on a call, what gave me hope? And I said, when I work with and watch my team, the Fanus team and the Sifriyat Pajama team, work together, when the war, Pogesh, hits each one sometimes the same way, but also differently, gave me hope and filled my heart to watch that and to be part of it. I have no doubt today that there is a continuing job to do. And if right now we're looking at the next year and a half in terms of our strategic plan that we are now formulating and beginning to implement for the remainder of this academic year and next academic year, I don't know what it's going to be, but I have no doubt that there is going to be a continued role that I don't know yet. It hasn't yet unfolded. And the reason that it hasn't yet unfolded is because this war is not over. There is tremendous concern as to where the region will find itself, where the world. I will tell you that Israelis are very, very concerned as they look around the world and see what's happening with the rise of anti-Semitism. I want you to know that that concern is also in Israel. And that adds to the concern because, you know, I say I would not want to see a diaspora without a strong Israel, and I don't want to see an Israel without a strong diaspora. This is one people who need each other. It doesn't matter where you live. We don't need we need history again to show us that.
Right.
And so I'm saying because the dust is far from settling, we don't know yet, but I have no doubt that PJ Library and Sifriyat Pajama and Maktabat al-Fanus will continue to have a role to play. And now I know what the third thing that I wanted to say.
I knew that.
Oh, thank God. The finance ministry is cutting budgets like crazy. This is a mega war, costs a lot of money, and they're cutting budgets left and right. I hear it from my colleagues. I hear it. I get phone calls. Like, oh my God, you know what happened? 30% of my budget cut. I had a meeting 2 weeks ago, 2 meetings with the Director General of the Ministry of Education, and I had to do this: no budget cut. And I'm going in and I'm asking for more money because we need more money. And I went in, for this academic year, the Ministry of Education invested 13 million shekels. I went and I said, we need 14 million. I knew we didn't need it really, but I knew we needed more. And this morning, I woke up with a WhatsApp from the head of National Preschool in the Ministry of Education.
That's WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Yeah. And that's what we do in Israel, only WhatsApp. And I said, oh no, why she knows I'm here. Why is she looking for me? And I kind of my stomach turned and I took a deep breath and I called her back. What's waiting for me? I said, Orna, Ma, what's up? No, it's good news. The bottom line is we received $500,000 increase in our budget.
Nice.
It's not the money, my friends.
Right.
It is the money.
Okay.
Harold will say, yes, of course it's the money. It is the money. But it's not just the money. This is a statement that is a resounding statement of our work and our shared work. And that was how I started my day. Spent the day with my wonderful colleague, Andy. And I did the dance because this was a major statement by the Ministry of Education as they are cutting and budgets are being cut naturally. So that to me said it all. And I want to thank, I know that there are supporters here of PJ in this room. Harold Grinspoon Foundation doesn't do its work alone. Right? PJ is in 40 countries, 7 languages, plus Arabic. And the foundation is incredibly, incredibly generous. But it doesn't do it alone. It needs a lot of partners. So it's an opportunity to say thank you to all our partners that enable us to do what we do. Organizations, if you're, like anything, you do something by yourself, your impact is about as wide as my, right? If I do something myself, my impact is about as wide as my shoulders. If I'm Superwoman, maybe a drop more. But if I have partners, it's 1 and 1 equals 5. And the partners and supporters and organizations that work with the Harold Grinspoon Foundation enables the Harold Grinspoon Foundation to be 1 times, I'm not kidding, 1,000 in the worldwide work that it does and the impact. So with that, I just wanted to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I guess I'll add, first of all, thank you for that last, it was worth everything just to come back to you to remember the third thing. And also to hear about how you're serving parents here in New York, Meara, and having those 25 connectors and continuing to do that is really vital. What you said was very touching. Think about,
parents are at a moment where they don't have a roadmap.
There's no roadmap.
I hear parents all the time say, this is what my grandparents were telling us.
Yes.
And all of a sudden raising your children and you don't know what to do. You don't know what's going to be next week or next month. And it's very scary. I have 3 small children and I just got home from the PJ Library Conference last night and I was exhausted and I was laying in my bed and I got a text. There's a town council meeting. We think people are going to show up to go against. I said to my husband, okay, I'm going. Like we have to do the work. You have to do the work, even when it's tiring. And I think that's something that's nice that's coming out of it. People are ready to do the work. They want to be a part of a community, and they realize they have to fight for what they want. And they have to fight on all lines. And being a parent is difficult to young children now because you don't know. But we know we have to show up, and we know that we're holding an amazing community here in New York, and it's our job to help in any way we can.
Well, we thank you for that work. And PJ Library here is also through here at the Y. Rebecca Schofer, our Director of Family Programming here, is also at the conference, and it's like a vital resource here. And I just I'll come back to that in a moment. I just wanted to thank you as well for your perspective on grandparenting and on the vital role the grandparents play in education. One more. Go ahead.
I actually would like to thank everybody for coming tonight.
Yeah.
I really hope that for you or those who have not yet used PJ Library, that it is just as gratifying for you as it has been for our family, because it really is a wonderful resource to be able to share with younger people. And it's not just what they learn, but it's what they feel. And I think that that's one of the wonderful contributions that PJ Library makes.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I'll reiterate, thank you for coming. As was said, it's not an easy night to come out with the rain and so on. We began framing this Jewishly as a time of the year that's very connected to stories and to the great storybook, which is the Haggadah. And the Seder, which is all about the children, the 4 children, 4 boys, 4 girls, 4 children. Children are everywhere in the Seder, in that beautiful night. But one of the moments that's my favorite moment in the Seder is that we can't start the Seder. You know, it begins, there are 15 steps of the Seder. I call it the 15-step program. It's not 12 steps, it's 15 steps. And they're, you know, Kadesh, Urchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. The fourth step is called Yachatz. It's where we break the middle matzah. So we take a matzah that's whole and we break it. And the rabbi said, you can't begin to tell the story until you break the matzah. Lechem sho'onim alav dvarim harbeh. You can't begin to tell the story until the matzah is broken. There has to be a break. And in Hebrew is so beautiful. The word for breaking, shever, is the same word as bread in Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. So there has to be something nourishing about this break. And we begin to tell the stories and talking about the story of the Exodus over a broken piece of matzah. And the thing that relates so much to our children, not just telling the story, is that, of course, over the last 2,000 years, a custom arose to break the middle matzah, but make sure that there were two pieces, right? One's a little bit smaller than the other one, right? And what do we do with the larger piece? We wrap it in a napkin and we hide it. And then we tell who? Who's told to go look for it? The children. So the original historical reason for that is, of course, because it helped to keep the children awake, as if the children are the only ones that need to be kept awake at the Seder. Like, really? How about an afikomen for all the adults who want to eat very quickly? But the deeper truth about it is that the children are the ones who find things that we adults have forgotten to look for. The children in our world are the most precious resource. I'm proud to be the rabbi here at the Y, but before I came here a year ago, I started a synagogue here in New York called Romamu that grew to 800 some odd families, and then we also have a sniff, we have a branch in Brooklyn. And one of the things I'm most proud about our community is that we started something called Shabbat of the Child. Together with Charuv Institute, Menalev, we were working together to raise the issue of children in the Jewish community here in America and also in Israel. And to be here tonight, and I've been a big fan of PJ Library and Harold's work and Diane's work forever, but to hear and to feel from you, Andrea, like what it's like to wake up on October 8th, on the day when you're going to be sending out the boxes of books, to bring those boxes of books into the classrooms with the kids, and to have to pivot and to think which words are going to be a trigger, and then to have a book, you know, about why things are not blooming. And I'm thinking to myself, when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking about Karpas. I'm thinking about the Seder plate, about like the hope in the middle of spring that'll, you know. I'm thinking about all the hard work that you and your whole team has to do, and the whole PJ Library. And I just want to say, you know, last thing, I'm a rabbi, but I spoke to Lise, so let me do one last thing. There's a midrash, there's a rabbinic saying that one of the things that Jews should always strive to be, is someone who's mekadesh shem shamayim birabim, that when someone sees you and says, wow, that's what it is to be a Jew, I want to be like that. It's one of the things that I took away from me when I was in yeshiva many years ago. And when I think about Harold and that conversation where you said, Harold, can I have $75,000? And he says, you know what? You're doing the work of the whole Jewish people, $700,000. I'm hoping you get as much as you need to do your work. It's really vital. And for the sake of the children and for the stories and for the grandparents who are yearning to give them their stories, I want to thank you for coming tonight to talk to us and share. And all of us here have more information now about PJ Library. Hopefully we'll go to the website, we'll download resources. You can, I'm sure they'll stay for a little bit if people want to ask them questions, but it looks like everybody here knows you and loves you, so as supporters or whatever it might be. And I want to thank the whole Y infrastructure, the Rompin team that are here, to Sharon and to Rebecca and everybody that helped put this together. Our diplomat from Poland as well, who gave us an incredible run of show, and to the AV here that helped us be heard tonight, and to all of you online, whether you're live with us tonight, or maybe more importantly, when you're going to listen to this recording, we hope that you'll also check out the work of the PJ Library and the Harold Grinspoon Foundation. All of that needs to be supported so that we can make sure that our children are cared for and that they can sleep tight at night. So that's our blessing for everybody. May everybody have a safe night, and we thank you for being here.